I'm not going for spoilers. What is sort of the next stage in the evolution of The Man in the High Castle? Like sort of the dramatic thrust of where it's going now in the new year. From both of your perspectives, please.
Well, we are right in the middle of season 3 right now, and we've been asked this. It's only just occurred to us. Neither of us have real perspective on the season yet. That may sound a weird thing to say when you think, but you're working on the scripts and
just make it
doing that. But we are still in the process of working out exactly what this season's core message is. But the message of the show doesn't change, which is what does it mean to be human in a human world, and how our own complicity in evil allows evil to thrive, and how do you change the consciousness of the monster to make it aware of its own monstrosity.
And you, young lady, how do you view the new season, even with your limited perspective at this point?
Oh my God, we're sort of, the surface is somewhere up there. We're kind of, one of the things I always think of PKD and his thoughts on reality, and one of his quotes that I love so that really I think kind of applies always to the show is how much of reality is in your head and how much of it is out there. And I think that what we're doing this season is really layering those two things and we're merging realities in a way that is tangible. And I think in the beginning of the show that was all a little bit abstract. And I think this season we're starting to really get a different perspective and something that is exciting.
So, at the end of the season we find out that Juliana's sister, a version of Juliana's sister is alive. Mm-hmm. And that brings up the question, which version of Juliana's sister died? Because we also found out that, forgive me, I forget his name, but there was the young Japanese man who was hurt in Hiroshima. Yes, who had been living in that world for a period of time, which shows that there could be people from the alternate world who've been affected. So, is that going to come into play on who is from their world versus the alternate world?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that worlds plural. I mean, the thing, Trudy, the Trudy who passed away is her Trudy, is her sister. The Trudy that comes back is Trudy, is a different Trudy. Which has been fascinating to explore and try to convey, story-wise, because obviously being able to discuss it at great length, it makes perfect sense, but to sort of boil it down to something that is, again, tangible on screen is different, but ultimately, there's an open space in this reality, so that she was able to come back. And I think that the whole point of her being reintroduced the way that she was Avinson's gift to Juliana to basically say, this is real, like this, you can touch her and talk to her and she's real. It's too abstract otherwise, and I think that gave us a really beautiful end to this season and being able to explore at a much deeper level, all selves and all worlds.
As you both said, that you're knee deep in season 3 now, and you've been playing this character, you know this character, studied this character. What would you say? I guess this is a bit of a personal question, but what about Juliana do you feel you enjoy playing? Is there something about her that you feel particularly? Or if not, maybe you don't, but I'm sure you.
I mean, it's interesting. We've been talking today. It's the first time I've ever spent this much time with a character. I've done a season of something or a film, and then it's over. More than studying her, I'm really, there's an immersion that happens. That's it's a simultaneous thing. We're living the story, and I'm living with her, and she's developing, and I'm developing, and it's a little worrying at times, I think, actually. The merging. She's fascinating. She's ever-changing. She's always growing, and again, based on her environment, the things that happen and the things she's subject to obviously affect her as they would us. And so, being able to incorporate all of those experiences and make them part of her. It's a constant growth and change, which is life, So, yeah.
So in season 3, I saw that we're bringing in J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes.
One of the first real American sides of the story that was written.
Well, there's two actually. In the first episode, you get to meet the head of the American Gestapo, which would be J. Edgar Hoover, and the Reichsmarshal of America, which was a title Philip K. Dick used actually for the person who, essentially the American president, which was based on a man called George Lincoln Rockwell. We hinted at this in the first season where you saw George Lincoln Rockwell Airport, where JF Kennedy Airport is. And George Lincoln Rockwell, for those of you old enough to remember well, was the head of the American Nazi Party and would have been a poster boy for the American Nazi regime. And these are two, we're sort of focusing much more on the world of High Castle in America itself. How does this world operate? It's not run from Berlin. And like any empire, the capital of the empire is Berlin, but America is an autonomous, or East Coast America is an autonomous Nazi power with its leaders and its heads of this and its heads of that and its government officials, and you get to meet two of them. And you begin to see that, I think a lot of people in the first season seem to think America was an occupied nation, that it was run by Germans. And it's not. The whole point of John Smith, literally a very Anglo-Saxon name, is that the people in power are Americans who have embraced the Nazi ideology.
Quick follow-up to that. J. Edgar Hoover was such a complex person and such a controversial person. How is that developing into this world?
Well, with a lot of the characters in our story, we have this huge burden of responsibility to both be realistic and creative with them. And what I mean by that is, we have Hitler, and we have Himmler, and we have Goebbels, we have, a lot of these Nazis have Heydrich, and these monstrous human beings. But, in those cases, we can extrapolate if they had survived what might have happened. With somebody like J. Edgar Hoover or George Lincoln Rockwell, that never lived under a fascist regime, how would those characters have coped, dealt with it? Would they have assimilated? We have a very, very detailed alternate history, how America lost the war, what the sequence of events were that led up to the first day of our show beginning. We have detailed character bibles. We know why John Smith made the choices he did, what the pressures were. But any nation you look at that was defeated or occupied in Europe, for example, during the Second World War, a lot of Europeans don't like to admit it, but the country divided. It divided in those who would refuse to collaborate and resist, and those, the majority which kept their head down, survived and collaborated. And in France, they created their own Nazi government, the Vichy government. In most European countries that were occupied, they sent forces, not in France, but a lot of other European forces, sent forces to fight alongside the Germans. Assimilation of Nazism was the key, and it worked to an extent. And the only reason they didn't is unfortunately because they were defeated before they could be victorious. In our world, they're victorious. So what would Hoover have been doing? He was very good at his job.
When you're dealing with a show that's rooted in a reality that you created, and suddenly, like in the promo clip we got, you're dealing with this multiverse now in a much bigger way. Is it tough to walk that line of reality, and suddenly we're getting into the more sci-fi concepts?
Well, you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, it doesn't feel, oddly, it doesn't feel like, sort of science fiction in the way that you think of it. I think, multiple dimensions and parallel universes and things that have been, discussed and studied for a very long time. And really there's a philosophy behind it more so than this sort of, fantastical kind of completely intangible idea. It weirdly, I think, because of the way that we've sown the seeds throughout the show from the beginning, it feels like it's time to start exploring that in a way. It doesn't feel jarring or overly or heavy-handed, science fiction-wise. It's a great little aspect of it, but it doesn't feel like it dominates.
It's really an alternate history show, more than a sci-fi, and even the multiverse elements are allegorical for the many versions of us.
Yeah.
The many choices we have. how would you behave in a different circumstance? Is it, it's not really the point of the show. The point of the show is to question our choices and our humanity. And it could be a religious belief or philosophical belief. And because it's Philip K. Dick, it is based in a scientific philosophy. That there are many versions of us doing many different things. And that version's moral choices will depend on the circumstances they're in. And so any journey or revelation of the alternate realities is only relevant where it reflects back onto the reality of our Man in the High Castle world.